Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to getting truly well informed. We take the source material you send us, all that dense research, those fascinating articles, and we really boil it down to the core knowledge you need. Now, today, we're kind of pushing past the usual grammar books, the vocab lists. We're looking at something deeper, this idea that, well, real mastery of English isn't just what you say. It's fundamentally about how you say it. Finding that voice that actually connects, that expresses something real and leaves a mark. Our sources for this deep dive, they draw on excerpts looking at the work of Mr. Abdullah Alsultan, specifically his focus on expressive communication in English. Think of it like a map, moving beyond just being correct, technically speaking, into something more genuine, more human.
That's spot on. For so many of you listening, the aim isn't just, can they understand me? It's more like, can I actually be compelling? So our mission today is to really unpack why this philosophy argues that storytelling, yes, storytelling is absolutely essential. And not just for fiction, but for making any communication, whether it's prepping for a meeting or, really deep reflection, sound. Well, the material calls it truly alive.
Yeah, that's the key phrase, isn't it? Truly alive.
Yep.
Is the difference between just spitting out data and actually sharing an experience. Okay,
Yeah.
So let's unpack this. Where does this philosophy tell us to look? What's the fundamental power source we're talking about here?
Well, it points straight to the power of narrative itself. The source material is pretty bold about it and makes this huge claim. Storytelling is the heart of every language and culture.
Wow. Okay, the heart. That's a really critical starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you call storytelling the heart, you're saying it's not just some add-on feature of language like an optional extra or a fancy dialect. You mean it's the core engine, the thing that drives meaning, cultural memory, all of that.
Precisely. If it's the heart, that's where the lifeblood is. It's pumping not just information, but, the context, the shared values, the emotional stuff that gives language its real power. So for you, the listener, trying to master English, this means you can't just treat it like a machine, like a set of rules. You have to engage with its narrative soul, basically.
And the material makes this pretty accessible right away, showing just how broad this idea is. It says stories can be anything from short anecdotes to deep reflections.
Yeah, and that range is really important. It knocks down that myth that, expressive English is only for novelists or poets or something. No, if you want to be truly expressive, maybe you're giving a quick 1-minute update to your team, or maybe you're writing a big detailed report. The basic principles, they still apply. Narrative structure, emotional tone. These techniques work across the board. They're transferable.
Okay, so we've got the foundation.
Yeah.
Storytelling is core. It fuels everything. That leads us right to the next point in the sources.
Yeah.
The specific purpose. Why do this? Why aim for expressive English? And the text is very clear here. The goal isn't just talking. It's to share ideas, emotions, and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a deliberate shift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Away from just, transmitting the information like a robot.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really fascinating here is how it explicitly puts the human stuff, emotions, experiences right alongside the ideas. Think about it. Most language instruction focuses on clarity, being concise, which is fine, but this material promises something more. It promises to teach you how to communicate in ways that sound more natural, expressive, and human.
That really hits on something many speakers feel, I think, especially non-native speakers. You can have perfect grammar, perfect sentences, but it still feels a bit stiff.
Flat.
Yeah, like it's missing that spark of spontaneity.
Exactly. And the humanity is what provides that spark. It bridges the gap. When the sources talk about making English truly alive, they mean vividness, spontaneity, resonance. Being able to actually paint a picture, evoke a feeling in your listener, not just give them facts. So proficiency plus that emotional resonance, that's what makes communication unforgettable. Because if you're sharing emotions, sharing experiences, you stop being just a speaker of English. You start being a human connecting with another human, which is the whole point, really.
Okay, but let's push back a little here. Someone listening, maybe a bit skeptical, might think, hang on, emotion and experience in my technical presentation or my business meeting, isn't that just performing?
Yeah.
Trying to be overly dramatic?
That's a fair question. And if we look at the bigger picture here, the sources seem to imply that emotion isn't about being theatrical. It's about authenticity. It's about strategic emphasis. So in a business context, sharing an experience might mean using a quick story to illustrate a challenge your team overcame, or showing the stakes involved in a project. It's about engagement, making your points stick, giving them a human context so they're not just dry data points.
Right, making them memorable. Which brings us neatly to the practical side. The payoff for you, the listener, because this is where it gets really interesting. The sources promise this isn't just philosophy. It's grounded in practice. It guides you to the key expressions and techniques you actually need. And that's the crucial bit, isn't it? Moving beyond the why to the how. What do these key expressions and techniques actually look like, even if we're sort of inferring from the promised result that stories become unforgettable and the language becomes truly alive?
Well, if the techniques make a story unforgettable, they must be about how you structure it, how you deliver it. This has to be actionable advice, not just vague ideas. Let's think about maybe 3 technical areas these key expressions probably touch on to get that alive quality. First, I'd bet on rhythmic variation and pacing. You know, a flat delivery is just monotonous. Zzz. Expressive communication needs varied rhythm, short, punchy sentences for impact, then maybe longer, more flowing ones for reflection. It breaks the monotony, signals shifts in feeling or importance.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, you wouldn't read a crucial finding the same way you'd read a list of background details, right? You'd adjust your speed, your pauses.
Exactly. Second technique, probably linked to sharing experience, has got to be the smart use of sensory and active language. Language that's truly alive isn't passive. It doesn't just report facts, it shows them. So instead of saying, the problem was confusing, you'd use active verbs, sensory details, something like, the data just pulsed with contradictory signals, making the solution impossible to really grasp. See? It turns an abstract idea into something you can almost feel.
Ah, so it's not just finding a fancier word for confusing, it's choosing words that convey the action of confusion, pulsed, swirled, tangled.
Okay.
Yeah, that feels very learnable. You could practice that.
Absolutely learnable. And a third area probably involves structure, what we could call rhetorical framing devices. Think about how you start a point or how you end it for impact. Using things like, say, the rule of 3, or placing a really strong image right at the start of a paragraph. These kinds of structural techniques help make the story unforgettable. They basically embed the information in memory. It's not just data transfer, it's memory creation.
But the sources specifically say this makes English truly alive, which we linked to being vivid, spontaneous. Can these technical tools, rhythm, active language framing, really create spontaneity? It sounds a little like a contradiction, structured spontaneity.
Well, it's not really a contradiction if you think of the techniques as a framework, not a rigid script. It's like learning musical scales doesn't stop a musician from improvising, it actually enables it. You learn the sort of grammar of expression, how to build a compelling sentence, how to vary your rhythm, and knowing that structure gives you the confidence to be spontaneous within it,
Yeah.
to connect authentically in the moment.
Okay. Foundation is narrative. Goal is humanity. Tools are practical techniques. Let's tie it all together with that powerful slogan from the source material. Tell it, feel it, live it.
Yeah, that slogan really works as a kind of 3-stage process, doesn't it? Especially if we connect it back to the techniques we just discussed. It starts with the technical, but it moves towards the authentic.
So, tell it. That's stage 1. The basic act of sharing the narrative, right? Applying those key expressions, using the rhythm, the sensory language we talked about,
Yeah.
the how-to.
Exactly. That's the structure, the vehicle. Then you move to stage 2, feel it. This is the internal part, the emotional core. If you want your story to actually resonate, to sound human, you've got to connect with the feeling behind it. Structure gets you there, but feeling is the fuel.
But that feel it stage, that feels like where a lot of people might get stuck. Especially if they're communicating in a language that's not their first. It needs vulnerability, confidence. It's more than just knowing the right words. How do you learn to feel it without it seeming, well, fake or forced?
That's a really crucial point. The sources seem to imply that feeling it means genuinely connecting to the experience you're sharing. It's not about acting. It's about authenticity. Think back to technique 2, using active sensory language. When you do that, you almost force yourself to visualize, to re-engage with the moment you're describing. And that can naturally bring up the appropriate feeling. So the technique actually helps facilitate the genuine emotion, making it sound real because in a way it is.
Ah, okay. The technique isn't separate from the feeling. It helps access it. Makes sense. And then the final stage, live it.
Yeah, live it. That sounds like the ultimate goal. Total immersion is where the technical skill and the genuine emotion just merge. You're fully present. The language becomes this seamless extension of your experience, something truly alive. It means you're communicating with such command, such authenticity, that you're not just recalling information, you're almost reliving the moment for the listener, sharing it directly.
So wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you, the listener? I think this deep dive really shows that improving your English expression isn't just about passively learning more rules. It's more like an active rewiring of your relationship with the language. Seeing it all through this lens of human experience, storytelling, and these practical techniques. Storytelling isn't just for writers. It seems like it's the universal engine for making all our communication, even technical stuff, academic discussions, feel more natural, more expressive, and, yeah, more human. By focusing on these principles, maybe inspired by Mr. Alsultan's work, you're potentially moving from just being a competent speaker to someone who's genuinely unforgettable.
And we know that true knowledge is only really valuable when you can apply it, right? These concepts are all about applying your language skills in this really profound way through genuine human expression, mastering the rhythm, the sensory details, the framing. It transforms language. It stops being just an academic task and becomes an act of real connection, sharing culture, sharing yourself.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If storytelling is truly the heart of language, and expressive language comes from sharing your ideas, emotions, and experiences, what story, personal or professional, are you maybe not telling right now? Or perhaps telling in a flat way because you haven't quite found those key techniques yet, the ones needed to make it feel truly alive?